Pickaxe.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this campaign wrap-up for Fables of Fendraeya Arcanum. I am, of course, your director, Jose Polino. You can follow me on TikTok and other fun socials, such as DM Jose and all that other stuff on TikTok. With that, let me introduce, for this amazing wrap-up into our wonderful campaign, the rest of my cast and crew, and a very special guest, which we will introduce first.
Oh no. The pressure. I've never even shouted out my TikTok before. Oh, this is crazy. Hello, everyone. My name is Colin McManus. I am director of Cast Party. You can find me on social, specifically TikTok at Director Colin.
Perfect. And then the rest of the crew will begin with Annie.
What the fuck?
Wait,
What the fuck, Jose? What the fuck?
I'm not looking at the script.
God, we're off the road now.
Jose, this is out of order.
Wow, I see who your favorite brother is, Jose.
Okay, everyone chill the fuck out. Everyone take a step back. I'm joined by my lovely cast and crew on this campaign wrap-up, beginning with my brother, my best friend in the entire universe, Ryan McManus.
Thank you. Hi, Ryan McManus. I played the wonderful and grumpy Rowan Fairisle in Fables of Fendraeya Arcanum. You can find me on my socials at Ryan.McManus or running the Cast Party socials at Cast Party D&D.
Awesome. And then moving on with another best friend, amazing person in the entire universe, Andy.
Hi, everyone. Beautiful nerds, one and all. I am Andy. You can find me on my socials at Mr. Dandy DM, and I was playing Five, our lovely little large druid boy.
And then we also have amazingly wonderful individuals, of course, moving on with Annie. Amazing friend, just the absolute best collaborator. Everything that could be said about these next two can be said and will be said. So Annie.
I was going to say, if you don't call me your best friend in the entire universe and you called that. Anyway. Hi, I'm Annie. I played Rid the Purple Menace, and I am Cantrip on all the socials I care about, CANNE.
And finally, we have Sin.
Salutations for the last time. My name is Sin. You can find me on all my socials as sensationally.me, and I played Zue, now really an orphan.
Wow.
Damn. Wow.
Oh.
You just found a way to hurt us one last time.
If you want to take it from here, Ryan, I've never done one of these.
I got you. Okay, so for the main episodes of Cast Party, we usually do a behind the scenes, but given that Fables of Fendraeya is kind of a compact mini-series, we wanted to wait until the end of the campaign to be able to do some sort of recap, hangout session with all of us, sit down, answer your burning questions, just dive into the campaign and ask the questions that us, the cast, have been meaning to ask Jose throughout the whole campaign. Whether it's stuff that might not have come up or stuff we're curious about, different ending possibilities, anything of the sorts. I did ask all of you wonderful people over on our Patreon, patreon.com/castparty, to join our Discord. Wonderful community over at the cast and crew. They got to submit some questions for our little series recap here today. And given that we have Colin just for a little bit, I would love to start with some questions for Jose and Colin. So just to go over things real quick so I don't get my questions lost, I would love to give a huge shout out to Sid, Frankie, Keonius, Brent, Kate, Laukinsolis, and Dubword for asking a bunch of questions about the series that we're going to go over today.
They were really thorough. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Why did you choose the setting for the first Fables?
Oh, okay. So Jose and I had our first conversation, and it was a blank open world. And Jose was just like, give me a location. And so I gave him a list of, I think it was like 4 or 5. And once he heard about the Badlands, that's really where he wanted to start working. And so I had already had, and it was something that I had planned for a long time about how tieflings actually got to Fendraeya, which was that they were forced out of Arborea because the gray wastes of Hades were seeping in. And I just basically sent him that, and he's like, I'm using that. And it actually worked super well. because we're doing this prequel series after Cast Party has already been through 40 plus episodes or whatever it was, it's very hard for Jose, who does not know every little intricacy of Cast Party, to know things that won't ruin a timeline. But if in the second episode he can send you to a different plane we haven't been to yet, that's a lot easier for him to have his playground. And he fucking ran with that playground. I think that's pretty much how it happened. I gave you a few ideas and you were just like, you loved that. You latched onto that immediately. You loved bringing in the Arcanum. Yeah, you did wonderful with it, man.
Yeah, I think also the nice thing about it was that what I needed to do was that I needed to have the story take place in the world that the listeners are familiar to, but completely actually take place in a separate world altogether while recalling back to the place that the listeners are used to. One, it helps me not remember every single detail about every single part of the world that Colin has created, because then it leads to more errors and things that I might potentially fumble on. And then also, it creates a whole thing where I can just be like, hey, Colin, I need information about so-and-so from so-and-so. Can you just give me that? Because I'm going to recall it in this next episode, perhaps. You know, so in a way, I'm able to be true to the source, but also create my entire new thing with it with, you know, certain variables here and there. But yeah, the Badlands was just kind of like the perfect part where he's like, yeah, I don't think the main Cast Party people are going to go over there. It'd be cool to do the Tieflings thing, you know, kind of see where they originated from. And then that's originally when Colin was like, oh yeah, the gray waste of Hades seeped through Arborea, and that's where the, you know, Tieflings sort of came through. Then it's like, ooh, then that's all very, very interesting. That's just like as an origin, if you will, for the entire story.
That can lead me into my next question for Jose. Jose, what was it like working alongside Colin and basically him giving you the reins to whatever you wanted to do?
Hey, stranger, here's my world that I've been so carefully and wonderfully caretaking and that we run a podcast on. Would you like to fuck around with it? Yeah, dude, that was, you know... I love Colin. I love all of you guys. You guys honestly have been the best. Everyone is my best friend. I love all of you guys. So no misses there. But yeah, no, it was really cool, man. Colin was just the best because, like mentioned, and we will talk about. So I think it began with me and Colin would have a lot of calls, and the calls would begin with me and him kind of talking about things and then slowly being like, oh yeah, this is really cool. And then all of a sudden going into like just excitement. So we would just talk. After a while, we would just we knew exactly what we were feeling about the setting and the moment or whatever, or maybe the ideas that I had, that we would just nerd out about that for a while. And then I was like, okay, cool. If he feels confident about this, as confident as I feel about it, then this should be good. I feel confident messing around here. But again, you know, I'm really just kind of messing around in Arborea, right? It's the little details that I really converse with Colin, and then that's where I'm able to have him give me input, which is incredibly valid, but then also have him kind of say, cool, there's, you know, and not in a bad way. I don't know if you felt this way, Colin, but maybe for Colin to be like, oh crap, how far is he going to take it? You know, what do I maybe have to worry about, you know, and having it sort of work out that way was really, really great because it just leads to more possibilities. And that's all we did. We just constantly, I would shoot out an idea to Colin, and then Colin would shoot out an idea to me, and then we just talk about things, and then we talk about you guys, and we talk about the story and the intensity of some things, and then Cast Party secrets. So it was pretty cool.
I want to jump in on that too, because I think our first conversation, you know, I mean, we were meeting each other. First 5-10 minutes, it's a little bit awkward. We're like trying to like vibe. By like 20-30 minutes in, we're like hype. I'm like getting out of my chair because it's like a great idea. Like just the way that Jose and I vibed. Obviously, through D&D, you're doing collaborative world building, but there's also so much world building that goes into it beforehand to allow that to blossom with your party. I've never gotten to do that with someone else, and just Jose and I just mesh so well. Because one of us would get a fucking idea and we would just be able to roll off of it and just like build upon it. And, you know, if something got really good, I'd like think about it and like, you know, later be able to be like, oh my God, we can include something else from Cast Party and throw it in there just to make that connection a little bit stronger, like more rooted in Fendraeya. But yeah, I always looked forward to our calls.
Love you, Colin.
And then, which we've already mentioned a little bit, but we should mention for the listeners, then it always ended up being like an hour or two before you were recording Fables of Fendraeya. You DM me on Discord with like 1 to 5 questions, just very basic things. It's just like, would this person know this? Or
Right.
Or I remember you just like, how do you pronounce this? And because I think we had sent it over Discord, you were like, how do you pronounce Saitia? Or it was like you were trying to bring in one of the other moon goddesses or whatever.
Yeah,
it's just like little stuff like that.
I mean, I don't know if it'll come up later, but the way that I worked with this was that I would jot down notes throughout the week, and then on Thursdays I would spend the entire night just hyper fixating on the campaign and the setting and what potentially could happen. So it's on my head. It's constantly in my head. It's all I think about. I go to work. I think about it. I take my iPad with me where I have my notes. So I'm just constantly in this state of like thinking. But then also within that, doing that DM thing where I don't need to plan everything, but I need to at least have a foundation for everything should anything come up. So then all of a sudden that's where things would come up where I'd be like, wait, that's right. What about this detail about the Arcanum? What if I choose to go there? Because we'll probably get into it, but in the moment, I'm also really just kind of like sporadically thinking, this worked great here. Great. I asked Colin about this. Let's do this here. Good that I asked him earlier because now I actually feel confident in bringing it to canon, if you will.
I will say this is not necessarily against that question, but for the first like 4 or 5 episodes, every time an episode, Ryan would be like, okay, it's done. I would have to listen to it immediately because I was so nervous that, something you guys said during the episode would contradict Cast Party. That fear very quickly vanished. And I haven't even listened to the finale, and I'm not worried about it. I haven't gotten to that point yet. Ryan just finished it today. I think I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it. So it's like one of those things I'm very excited to listen to, but I'm never worried about messing with the canon in any way.
I can attest to that because it was probably by the time we hit, I think I probably sent him maybe episode 9 or 10, and he was like, oh, I'm a couple episodes behind. I trust Jose now. I was like, okay, cool. I think that's it, Colin. I don't want to keep you too late. Does anyone else from the cast have any questions for Colin while we're here just chilling?
I just wanted to say, not really so much of a question, but just more of a thank you, along the same lines in the energy of the conversations you had with Jose. As a player coming into a world fully cognizant of the idea that I'm coming in on a timeline that is well before the events of the main show, just being like, I really hope I don't do anything that screws anything up. And sort of, I remember, I think we had a chat early on about, and Jose also echoed this, just how you're giving us a lot of freedom to sort of explore and do things that intentionally, not fuck up the world, but like create seismic shifts that will then echo throughout the rest of the main show. So thank you for that.
Thank you guys for, just creating such interesting characters. You guys all came to me, and first of all, this is like the first time any of us, other than Jose and Ryan, like really like talked in person. So, I mean, we created these character ideas and everything. You guys obviously created the ideas, but those little connections to Cast Party, like Rid being from Elvirath, like that was just something that Annie brought up to be like, oh, I want to be part of like a royal family. Is there like a good place I could fit in? And after talking with Jose and then talking with Annie a little bit, just over like Discord DM, we were able to come up with a really interesting, cool way that not only is it super impactful for Rid because of the loss of her sister and the whole family dynamic, but also that led to a new family taking over Elvirath, which is a huge portion of an early part of Cast Party, with the magistrate taking over Elvirath, essentially. And that's just one example, obviously. Like the others, everyone has had an impact in some way. I love that. And thank you guys for trusting me to throw you into a place. And I hope you guys like where you landed. You always seem like you're having so much fun. And it's just, I wish I could be a fly on the wall in some of those recordings.
Thank you for trusting us. This has been so much fun to be a part of. And, it's like Jose said, like, here's this world that you made with your hands and your love. And thank you for letting us be part of it.
There you, Colin.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, Colin.
Hope you guys all enjoy. I can't wait to hear the finale. I'm going to go start listening as soon as I can. So thank you all so much for listening to Fables. We weren't sure how this was going to go, and it's just become such a success, and everybody absolutely loves you all. And so thank you for making such an incredible step. Thank you guys for all impacting Fendraeya. I really can't wait to see how the world changes and reacts to what you guys did. Thank you all. I'm going to drop out, so.
We'll see you later. Thanks for popping in.
Of course.
Bye, Colin.
So, bouncing off of that first question, sorry, Jose, you don't get to answer this one. This is for the players.
Ooh.
Wondering why we chose the setting we did. They would also like to know why we chose the characters that we did.
Ryan, I think you should go first as someone who's on both casts.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Why did you choose your character, Ryan?
I chose Rowan because I actually partially created Faramore, the city of Faramore for main cast party. We did for those who subscribe to the Patreon, every single month we do a exclusive one-shot. Anna ran us through a 2-part series from I don't remember what book. It was Xanthoria's something.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
cool. It was sick. It was crazy. And I created this random character, and it was one of those hyperfixations where I freaking love this character. I'm building the entire world around him, and then I was like, I don't really have a place for him. And then I started building on Faramore, and at the time, Colin was like, I need a city that goes right here. And it's a coastal city, and I'm like, you can use it if you want, but remember when we did Xanthoria's with Anna, I created this character named Noble from Faramore. And he was like, I love the whole thing, the whole premise of Faramore, the praising the moon goddesses on the coast, all that stuff. So he put Faramore in cast party. And I was like, I would love to then play some lineage of Faramore and some of the earlier days. And I came up with Rowan, who is Noble's uncle. He holds no line to the throne, neither did Noble. I loved the idea of Faramore. I would love to go into it more at some point. And yeah, just a cleric of the moon goddess from the city that worships the moons, just seemed very fitting. And I loved being able to flesh him out.
I have an interstitial question that I wanted for just Ryan. So in the Patreon Discord, you said that Sebastian represents who you were and Rowan represents who you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
What about our grumpy grandpa cleric do you want to be?
Oh God, where do I start? Rowan is not afraid to say no. He's not afraid to basically say what he needs to say. I am one to beat around the bush. I'll deal with, I don't want to do this, but I'll deal with it if I have to kind of thing. And I feel like I wanted to then set that personality up for who I wanted to be in the future. And being able to role play it in a character is almost like practice for me to take on those attributes a couple years down the line, I know it's dumb, but I loved it. It was fun. Rowan is probably one of my favorite characters I've had the pleasure of playing. Just a stoic guy who stands up for what he believes in. That's all.
Ryan, I love that so much. And I just want to say, as someone who does D&D therapy with kids, that is exactly what we do for embodying things. And I love it.
Exactly. All right, enough about Rowan. Who's next?
So my last long-term campaign, I always had a backup character that was a runaway noble named Eridina. And the name Eridina came from a random Ross cashier I had one time. And I was like, I like your name, I'm stealing it. So thank you to that Ross cashier.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that was a real name.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's the best of my ability, or the best of my memory. That was her name. I forgot to write it down, but I liked it. I shortened it to Rid because, here's this whole past she's trying to get rid of. And it's ridiculous. And there was a riddle. I liked kind of the associations with that. She was not in my backup campaign, in my last campaign, she was not a Hexblood. That was something I found when I was just I know I want to try playing a rogue. I was looking at, what would be fun with a rogue. And I saw I think someone called it I forget what someone called it. Someone had a really smart name for the tooth cell phone. But I saw that and I was like, that would be fun. And then I looked at the Hexblood kind of lineage and I was like, oh, okay, these are some fun origins for someone who, made a deal or someone who was made to be this. And so all of those things came together as like, here's what I would like this to be. And I built off of that. And then personality-wise, I wanted to play someone who was not like me at all, because my previous characters in long-term campaigns, the first one was just straight up me. The next long-term one was, I meant for it to not be me, but it ended up being me anyway. So I wanted to play someone who was like a purple menace Aubrey Plaza, basically, because I love her.
It worked so well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can't look at Aubrey Plaza clips on TikTok anymore without thinking of
Very true.
not thinking of Annie
Very true.
or Red.
But yeah, that was basically Rid. I wanted Eldritch Horror Disney Princess.
Wow, that is that is the perfect description for it.
So good.
I'm gonna nominate Sin.
Howdy, hello. I don't know if I've told everyone, but I know like for sure I've like talked to Annie about like how I create my characters, and I like to try and embody moments of time or moments of a day. And I knew immediately because we were kind of playing with time, and I had like an inkling that it was going to be something to do with like a lot of like kind of changing perceptions a lot, because we did talk about morality in our session 0.
Mm-hmm.
I immediately wanted to play with the idea of that very first blossom right after winter, but it's not yet quite spring. And my mind immediately went to the word Zue, or the character Zue, X-U-E in Cantonese, means snow and fresh and blank. But being the math nerd that I am, doing numerology, if you do Z-U-E, the numeric value is 7. Which has to do with information collecting, blankness, and also a love for kind of exploration and discovery. And I wanted to kind of play off of Jose, what he said in our session 0 about like, we're just gonna fuck up morality. We're gonna kind of like think about that and what that means. And I wanted to kind of play that character that played both sides, but from the standpoint not of maliciousness, but more so like, neutrality is me just observing the world and not quite understanding the impact of neutrality itself and playing with that kind of morality. And I also just got so curious because my initial thing is I always play tieflings. And Jose's like, we can't play tieflings. And I was like, oh. Mm-hmm. And then I got like a list of characters, and Colin had mentioned that changelings were not from this world. And I was like, done. I want to be a bald little alien baby. And that was
it. Sin. I used the numerology of my characters, and I was thinking of the first blossom of spring and a bald alien baby.
The two sides.
You astound me. I admire you so much. Do it forever.
Andy.
Why did I do 5? I remember talking to Jose early on when we did our session 0. I'm very much obsessed with the idea of Warforged characters, mainly because I grew up watching Star Trek The Next Generation, and Data was very much one of my favorite characters growing up, and sort of his sort of journey in discovering humanity and what it means to be a contributing member of society. Of the people in this cast, I'm also a dad, and so and a big brother. And so there were so many elements in terms of what I wanted to pursue as a character, where I usually don't play magic users. I usually play very martial characters. And so I was like, of the people on this, like who's or of the classes, what's the most me? And so I was like, well, I feel like Druid. And so I remember talking to Jose. Originally, we were talking about how he's kind of a metal bending druid, and he kind of morphs in that way. And then we stopped, and we were just like, well, no, he can still be this other circle, but he can't. That's just what he looks like, and when he changes into his wild shapes. But the thing I think that really stuck with me was when it was like very early on. And I don't know who asked the question, but I feel somebody asked it. to the cast saying, hey, do you all have relationships? Does anyone in the cast know the other person already? And so I believe Ryan and I immediately talked, and we're like, hey, we know each other? Yeah, cool. What's our backstory? Oh, well, I was traveling and I was in the process of getting mugged in a coastal city when you decided that you were going to somebody was taking advantage of Five because he was a traveler from Burndarum, didn't know the customs at all, and so somebody was trying to mug him, and Rowan steps in and saves him, and then they end up going on a journey together. And that takes them to the Vale of the Mists and where they meet up with the rest of the people. But I think the theme that I really wanted to pursue for the character was the idea of being a brother, of being a big brother. I am the oldest in my family, and it's always something that has stuck with me, is the idea of family, not just your blood relations, but the family that you find, and how some ways those families that you find are actually more intense and more bonded together than the people you're blood related with. And so for a Warforged, what does that mean when you have somebody who has the backstory of Five, who is created? He's not born necessarily. And so what does that mean? He has to find his own family. And so he did.
I love it.
So good.
Here's a quick one that's actually that's pretty interesting. Now that we've all described our characters, if you could play as someone else's character, who would you play as?
Whoa.
You don't have to describe anything. You could just mine would be Five.
I would play Zue.
Rowan.
I'd play Rid.
There you go.
But actually, I think I'd play Rowan because I want to play a cleric.
Oh, nice.
They were fun. This was my first ever cleric. It was very interesting. I goofed a lot of my spells, and I apologize, but it's a learning experience.
I would think that was the biggest learning curve for me, just how I'm going through my spells. And I promise, like, I've looked at these things, but it's like remembering in the moment, like, oh wait,
I'm going
to use this, and then Jose is like, well, actually, because it's an item, that is actually an action, not a bonus action. And so you can't do that many things sequentially in your turn. And then you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm still strung up by this, by these chains that I can't get out of them.
Yeah.
I know we've kind of like hinted at them. Have we ever explicitly said like what our classes are to people? Because I know quite a few of us multi-classed, right?
Yeah, we can provide a last, it's a finale wrap up. Rowan ended up as Cleric 7, Fighter 2.
5 ended up as a 9th level Warforged Druid. There were so many moments when we leveled up where I was like, oh, I'm totally going to multi-class. And I think I annoyed Jose so much because I would send him stuff like, I'm totally going to be a barbarian now. Or maybe I'll be a monk. Or maybe I'll do this. And then I never did any of that shit. And I just stayed as a druid. But the thing that I really loved doing, and it honestly was one of my favorite moments in the entire campaign, is the week before our penultimate episode where 5 is given the gift of the staff. Jose and I had talked about changing the circle that 5 belongs to. And so while 5 starts off as a circle of shepherd and was all the way up till 8th level, when he goes from 8th to 9th, he is no longer that. He is a circle of stars. And that was honestly I love that transformation.
I noticed that. It was so cool.
That was neat. It's just a side note to piggyback off of that. No, Andy, you didn't annoy me at all, because while I was getting messages from you, I was getting messages from Annie, I was getting messages from Sin, and then every now and then Ryan would just be like, hey, just want to remind you about that. And I'd be like, cool, thank you, man. And then you guys were all like, what about this? What about this? What do you think about this? What do you think?
Oh God, we were just talking about this with somebody. The conversation differences between all of the party with Jose. It's like, oh, Annie and Sin wrote like 7 pages each, and they have this whole like fleshed out thing with lore and a fanfic and playlists, and Andy wants to do all these crazy things that are so awesome, and I want to make them all work. And then Ryan's like, hey, I want a lamp. Cool, it does this. Dope, love it.
Cool, man, there's your lamp.
Annie, what did Rid end up being?
Yes, sorry.
Rid was a level 9 arcane trickster rogue. So I actually did not multi-class at all. But if Rid were to continue, she would take all the rest of her levels in wizard, I think.
That's what I thought. I thought you did a dip.
Same. Oh, you took a feat, right?
Yes, I took magic initiate.
God, that's so cool.
Yeah, I was trying to think what Rid would have learned. I tried to do level ups like Sin based on what the character would have learned or wanted, and that's what I went with.
So I have a question, actually, now that the show's done, because I ended up with 6 Lore Bard and 3 Hexblade Warlock. But my patron was Ilianos, so I'm so curious. Am I no longer a Warlock?
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's a loaded question, but technically, yes, you are. Yes, you are. So essentially, what the whole point of the story is at the end of the day is that you guys feel one way about Kaimasora, and then you don't. And then you feel one way about the Arcanum, and then you stay in that way, right? You feel how you feel about him. But then Ilianas is that weird line that you're constantly you sort of like, do we trust him? Do we not? How do we feel about him? And then Zue is very like Sin was the last individual that I talked to when it came to the whole character creation, because you guys were all giving me like different elements here and there of like, oh, I want to explore this and I want to explore that, and I was like, oh, cool. So I started connecting the dots. But with Zue, it was so like, oh no, they are so intrinsically tied to this NPC that I have to make sure that I balance that properly. So at the end, the essences, if you will, of Ilianas, Sorene, and Furnos can live on. Not so much Furnos, you guys kill the body, but the spirit endures, right? And that's just, that's where he's telling you, like, I'll always be here. I have to go, but I'll always be here, and he's allowed to have that conversation with you because he, out of mind and spirit, can now rest, right? He doesn't have to keep playing the charade anymore, so he can be Ilianas for you till the end of time, and his end, he, yes, there was probably, if we want to write the book about it, yes, there was probably a lot of things that Ilianas did that were not necessarily maybe favorable. But at the end of the day, it's all under the assumption of, well, I'm just this person. But it's like, no, you're actually this person that was twisted, that was, sort of shown a different life, and you went down the wrong path. So, I don't think people like that should just be like, okay, well, you suck and you're evil now. No, it's, we got to give this person another shot. They're not going to come back and be physically present with you, but they'll be emotionally present with you, which is also why Sorene is also, we get to give that to not only you guys, but to the audience, right? It's like, let's let the boy live in a way. Let's let the boy rest, let him go on in that innocent, self. So technically, yes, if we played tomorrow and you cast something, Ilianas would more than likely make an appearance.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you for saying that, because that actually clears up, because I know that some of us were feeling guilty
about killing my father.
That makes me feel a whole lot better. That we are stripping away his corrupted form, so in a sense he can ascend.
Right. The other thing is when I originally begun thinking about the big bad evil guy, I didn't know who the fuck it was going to be. Right? I didn't know, and I mean, we'll probably get into this or whatever, but yeah, I didn't know it was going to be the concealed version of the person that the influences in the world around him shape Sorene to be, that has just been so locked up within, that is just manifesting itself. So yeah, in a way, by the time I started discovering, oh cool, I know where I think I'm going to create this individual, Furnos, it was about making sure that when I described them to you, I made sure to say, you're not looking at the boy that you saw in the visions, and you're not looking at the man that you got to know. You're looking at something else entirely. So that sort of allows you to like, okay, cool. So if I go, because I wanted you guys to come full force at this thing, right? Because I was like, this has been fun. We can joke around and play, but if we're really going to give the listener something to listen to and you guys something to feel, I need to go at this just as strong as you guys are going at it, right? So that is where I needed to also make sure to draw the line between what you're experiencing, it's its own entire thing that you can add feeling to, right? You can add, oh, I can imagine how evil this guy must be, but it's like, but is it evil inherent? No, it's actually just this corrupted form of isolation and frustration and anger and all these kinds of things just manifesting themselves, you know? So when the leader of the ever watchful eye of the Arcanum says, get this for me, and you will get this for me now, it's when it sort of allows it to do a double effect, right? She triggers it by saying the name, but then also says, I demand this of you. So it's, again, Furnos is also a conflicted being that is trying to follow orders, but is just trying to do what it needs to because it's been trapped for so long. So it kind of works out in that way, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we leaked all of our levels in all of our classes, and I do have another question, just kind of based around classes. Did anyone have any other character ideas before landing on your current character?
You guys are gonna love this one. For Rid, it was between being a hexblood and a fairy.
Whoa!
Oh my god.
Would it still have been Rid, or?
I think the personality would have been different.
Okay.
I thought about it, and then it just hexblood I was drawn toward more.
This Rid was too perfect.
Can I just say, the amount of character building messages between Annie and I before we started, so many. Like, I think 2 weeks before recording, I was already doing that finger scroll thing where you scroll through many pages.
Oh god.
Wow.
I love how much our party came together as these like 4 distinct weirdos. And then session 0, I was like, ooh, Warforged Druid. How's that gonna work with my weird girl? And then it just came together so beautifully by the end, and I really love that.
I adore when you jump into a new game with new people that you've never played with before, with new characters that you have no idea how to play, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to play my own character. How am I going to play alongside these characters that are so vastly different from the personalities and the aspects of my own character that I have set up for myself? And then you just slowly start to get these little bits or these little jokes between like the two characters, and you get these common situations that you end up in, and I just love watching it blossom, man. It's so good.
Can I just sort of ask a question, sort of on top of what Ryan just said? How did everyone pick their voices, and did you practice your voice? Because I know I did. I was like, okay, 6'9", plant metal person. He's gonna have a deep voice. It wouldn't be right if he didn't. It wouldn't be right if he said, "I'm 5, the Warforged Druid." It wouldn't have it needed resonance. So, and I also just practiced a lot in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I wanted to give Zue like a soft human voice, and then Zue's actual voice was from the idea that they had shapeshifted so often that they tore their like throat muscles.
Oh,
So what the fuck?
Which is why it tries
so
to be a
cool.
little scratchy.
So
How
cool.
do you keep
Damn.
finding ways to hurt me after the game is over?
Zue was almost a paladin.
What?
Oh.
Wait.
Yeah.
First of all, you hate paladins. I love paladins and you hate them.
Oh, I know, to the point where like a lot of internet communities have gone to taken to calling me Palison, which is kill me.
Beautiful.
What subclass?
I think though it was kind of like the same thinking Ryan had with Rowan, where I was like, maybe I'll grow as a person in this game and not play a bard and play something I hate. And then I went, no. No, I almost went, I was gonna ask, so there's this thing called like a gatekeeping paladin. It's a homebrew thing. Where it's about keeping information and using it to kind of spread gossip back and forth. And I was really fascinated by that. And I almost asked Jose, and I was like, no, I like the bard thing more. I like being the squishy person who never goes into combat and is super unassuming. I just want to be a little glass cannon.
You wanted to gaslight gatekeep girl boss.
Wow.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, the voice question. I was like, what question were we even on?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Rids was either going to be real high or real low. And when I heard that Sins was going to be high, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to go low.
Mine's that easy too. I wanted the exact opposite of Sebastian, which I play in the main campaign, which is very high and breathy and exciting. We go low in British, you know? It's really that easy. I am going to toss out one more super quick. This is just a little fun Patreon question. And then I would love to dive into everyone's burning questions from the cast for the campaign. This is just a fun one. What was everyone's favorite NPC from the game? Jose, you're included on this too.
I'll go first. My favorite NPC is Sorene and Hades.
Oh, yeah.
Those are my two favorite NPCs. Sorene because I didn't have to do much with him. I just wanted a kid, right? Because it's also that symbol of like, okay, what's the purest form of childlike wonder than a child? Okay, great. You know what I mean? I don't have to do much. You guys can just sort of fill in the rest. But then in my head, I would always think about him and I just think like, oh, he's just like this little kid and he's just like, you know, just wanted to do something with his life. You know, I didn't need to develop it. That's the thing, is I only needed to develop crucial parts about it, because then or else I get too lost in the character, right? So then I was like, okay, great. So then I was like, I pictured him and then Hades, because I was like, Hades is like my everything I love combined into one character. He looks like Sephiroth and he acts like Cloud, but he is also just an absolute dick, but is also incredibly tormented. You know what I mean? So I like those kinds of characters, the characters that are just always walking that thin line. And it was funny too, because I really liked how you guys responded to Hades, right? Where like you guys were constantly in this state of flux of like, except for Rowan. I think Rowan just always hated him. But it was cool how you guys were like, fuck this guy, you know, I don't like you. But then it was kind of like, you guys were able to bring about an interaction with him, which was more of like, the way that I sort of broke it down every time I would talk about it with somebody would be, the energy that you guys gave me was always, why are you showing me this? But not out of not wanting to see it, but out of why this? And I think somebody mentioned it. I don't know if it was Zue, maybe? Somebody mentioned it, or maybe Rid. I don't know who it was. But that is the essence of Hades, right? It's why are you showing me this? And it's like, well, yeah, because we don't want to see certain things, right? But we have to see certain things, don't we? And it's that careful line of giving you too much, but not giving you enough. So, yeah, those are great. Those are my two favorites. But I love all of them. But those are the two that I just always spent most of my time and energy on. And the Haven Eye.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say the Haven Eye. The Haven Eye is definitely one of my favorite NPCs ever. And that goes twofold, mainly because Jose's voice acting, which makes it possible for Ryan on the back half to do the sound editing, which then makes the
my
Haven Eye
favorite.
So good.
Yeah. It like the moment, because I wasn't expecting it. The first time that the Haven Eye's voice or the Haven Eye's character is truly introduced, it is chills. It's so good.
Yeah, Ryan killed it with that edit.
And then, yeah, I would say Hades, and for the exact same reasons that Jose said, it would be very easy you didn't make it easy for us to come at Hades in an aggressive posture all the time. You made him even a god. You made him a god who is vulnerable and could be hurt emotionally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
We started out with him as Simp Nation. Like he was hot elf,
my God.
then he drowned us, and then he was a simp, and so the opinions changed.
And then he fucking whimpered in the finale. Whimpered.
Yep.
My serious answer is Hades as well. Everything listed above. My funny joke answer, which I love, is Herman.
Oh,
my
My
God.
boy.
yes.
The little boy.
Can I just say something about Herman really quick? So there is a druid spell that allows me to conjure a woodland animal. And I was going to ask, or maybe I did. I don't know, Jose, if you remember if I asked you or not, if I could conjure Herman.
I think so.
And he was technically a woodland creature, so I was just like, could he just be my familiar, basically, if I conjure him?
That would have been super great.
Oh, no, I lied. I'm so sorry. Olga's my favorite NPC. I might have stolen that from you, Annie, and I'm so sorry if I did, but...
Olga was good. Olga was fun.
Olga was so funny.
Before I talk about my love for Olga, I want to hear who Sin's favorite was.
My first one is like super obvious to everyone. I love Ilianos. Like, partially because of Zue, but like I legitimately love the energy of this man, and I feel like it's because I bring the same energy at work. I love him so much. Second favorite NPC, as much as I hate her, Alana, just fucking fantastic. And the life that Jose brought to her, when I just like my brain went full blue screen when she said no to me. I'm sorry. Just like, no.
Yeah.
Blue screen.
Yeah.
I was like, sorry, who am I? Step on me?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you this. Fucking terrifying, because that is a canon character of canon characters. So that was me going, hey, Colin, can I play with this one a little bit? And Colin was like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, okay. And I mean, I can show you guys. I sent him a thing where I was like, would she say this? Would she say this? What would she say to that? You know what I mean? And he was just very good about like, you know, keeping me sort of like up to that. But the other thing about Alana, which was also very important, is that I was like, she's here as a guest spot. She is here, like Colin, she is here for a little bit and bye everybody. You know what I mean? Like, either the excitement would have gotten to me and I would have just kept that scene going more and more. But yeah, it's like, that was so cool to be able to bring, and again, you know, there's a lot of freedom with that too, because it's set so long ago. So secrets and that and all these other kinds of things. But at the same time, it was like, oh fuck, okay, don't fuck this up. So to your question, Andy, that was the one person that I spent a lot of time on towards the end, where I was like, I know I wanted to use her, and Colin said, you know, yeah, sure, go for it. But then all of a sudden when I'm actually doing it, I'm like, okay, well, how would she say these phrases? You know, what is it for her to say, I'm always watching? Which is always like a fun thing, right? Because we're fucking around with that so much that I need the listeners, and dude, Ryan, you're editing on that. My guy.
Oh my God.
You guys are fucking
You're
magical
editing on
together.
that.
You guys, like the acting
Dude.
and then the editing, amazing.
Because what you did so well is essentially what that needed. It needed the build-up and then no music. So then it becomes the tagline, but now it's the, oh, we tagline it because we believe it. The person who runs this believes this.
Yep.
So then I was like, dude, I got chills, man. It's so good, so good. But I'm sorry to interrupt. Annie.
I would actually say that my favorite NPC was Varian, because I love the little
Ooh.
peculiar mentor types. I love I need that little bit of something with some poppy seed, like that kind of thing. Like, I want to play a character like that so badly, and I love when I get to talk to them. But my Olga is my second favorite, and I wasn't expecting her to be so funny. I love her.
Oh my
I
god,
know.
yes.
It was such a throw off, because anytime you have characters in someone's head, everyone is always thinking, ooh, scary voices, you know, what's gonna happen? And then you come out with this eccentric, just nonsensical voice with a bubbly, crazy personality. Dude, it was so, it was like whiplash. It was crazy. I love it.
That goes to Annie for sure, because Annie gave me a lot of freedom with that. Because when we talked, I was like, how do you envision this individual? You know what I mean? And I think what it became, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, Annie, I think it was just kind of like, well, yeah, she would just be, she's unhinged. She is the definition of your stereotypical hag, right? Because I know that I'm going to give you scary hags later. I need to give you a hag that maybe at some point can be redeemable, right? Because, you know, the backstory of it all is because of Annie, right? So Annie gives this fucking destruction of a mess about her and her sister and her family and all this stuff, and we talk about it for hours. So then I'm like, okay, well, do we then have the hag that took over her body, or took over a part of her, to allow her family line to live on? Do we have that one be scary and gloomy and, oh boy, here we go, we're gonna be sad the whole time, and every time she comes up it'll be a problem, right? It's the, you know, you don't want to hear from her again. So then it's like, okay, well, let's play fun with it until the point when that voice is also scared. So then there you develop another element.
I loved how much thought you put into Olga. Like, we had a conversation about, like, after, I think it was after Rid lost Olga temporarily, we were like, you know, what does that mean for Rid? Is she relieved, and is she sad? Does she feel lost? And I think that's just something you were thinking about this entire time with their relationship. Like, what does it mean to have this person who can take control of your body sometimes? And what does that look like? And it was super fun. I think you did so well with it, Jose.
Oh, thank you. Well, again, and you bounced off it really, really well, because then that's the other thing too. It's to the listeners are listening already to the relationship that's established, right? Or in a way, not necessarily established, but like it's been coped with, right? It's, well, I know how to deal with you and you know how to deal with me. And yes, to Andy's point, she will take charge of the situation because she not necessarily doesn't care about Rid, but is thinking in that moment, what do I want, right? And then it's not until later when you discover that, well, Olga was also a dying, let's just say, creature, that it makes sense for why Olga would make these decisions with Rid, right? It's the like, oh, I have a new purpose in life. I want to go do this and I want to go do that, you know? Do it for me because I'm here now, you know? But then allowing then Annie the proper amount of letting Olga get so humanized to the point where then it's on Annie's turn. Annie now gets to decide how she carries this relationship forward, right? We build her up as the crazy eccentric and I'll fuck up of your bones and all that stuff, and then you break her so then Annie can then come in and nurture, and then all of a sudden, okay, great. Now we establish something new again.
The last thing I'll say about this is I really liked that you let me homebrew the thing where, you know, Rid can break her own bones to take damage to get something back. I just wanted to throw that in because I don't think, you know, people might be wondering how that happened, and that was homebrew in the finale. And I really liked that, and I liked Olga's response to it because Olga was like, what are you doing? And it kind of flipped the script for how Olga was introduced in like episode 2, doing that.
Yeah, it was cool.
Did we want to get to your guys' questions?
God, please.
Anyone got anything that they're just like dying to get? I know Annie's just jumping on.
Oh, so. Annie is ready. Let's not get in her way.
She's been ready, so please continue, Annie.
Here, guys. Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry, before we get into this part of it. Annie, I'm so sorry.
Do I have a super quick us question? Hold on. From the patrons, can we get a Zue and Rid kiss?
Yes.
We did. You're welcome. What was the hardest part for you to roleplay? Meeting Salune for the first time.
Ooh. I would probably say during Zue's episode, I didn't anticipate past characters that Zue had interacted with going through. Like, I did end up crying a little bit, apologizing to one of them.
When we say hardest, do we mean like this was difficult emotionally or this was difficult to stay in character for?
Your choice.
Hardest emotionally was Rid finding out that Diana's death was not an accident. And hardest to stay in character for was Rid being mad at Zue.
Okay,
like,
same. Sorry.
Because like Sid and I were like, oh no, they're mad at each other. What are we gonna do? And it's like, I know where that place lives in Rid and I can roleplay it. It's just like, you know, right before Sid and I are like, what are we gonna do?
Literally, like emotionally, yes, apologizing to those characters. In character, all day, Annie and I were messaging about how excited we were to see each other, and I'm just like, okay,
yeah, the reunion.
I'm mad at Annie. I'm mad.
Yeah.
All I remember is like, especially during those angry episodes, it was like you guys would say something like in the recording and then just typing in our player chat like, I'm so sorry, I really don't mean it, like everything's okay.
Well, the thing was, Sid and I both had lists of meaner things to say if it had gone poorly. Like,
yeah, we shared a list.
Oh my god, no way.
We shared a list of things that we wrote in preparation for a bad fight. And like what we would have said to each other in that fight.
That, you know what? That is awesome. And I'll explain. That is so perfect because in games like this, where I know in previous years playing this game, we might not have thought of that, but we're living in an age where consent is so valuable and so important. You want to make sure that the people you're playing with feel comfortable 100% of the time and don't want to say something that might trigger an out-of-game reaction or an emotion. So that was very thoughtful of the both of you.
I would like to praise you for all of that, especially like for dealing with everybody. I feel like we all got real sassy with everybody, and it was nice to just be able to let that sass out freely. And at the end of the day, we all still love each other. I do want to get to Andy's hardest roleplay moment, and then Annie will jump into your question.
Hardest roleplay moment for me was definitely anything involving Seven. Seven going from sort of that whole arc, thinking that Seven was an enemy, to Seven was used, to Seven was actually just trying to be a hero, and he was, and for all intents and purposes, he was my brother. But then hardest roleplay moment was Zue's episode, like, because there were so many moments where, like, Sin and I, we did not talk outside, not much outside of that one session about what we were going to do in session. But when we got there were things that just sort of happened. Like our phrase, like there was a phrase that we spoke at the beginning and at the end of the episode. We were just like, oh, what was it? It was up and out. And I was just like, yes, Sin, you made it so easy, but also so hard, because it was like incredibly emotional role playing with you in that session. And I just want to say thank you. Out of game, just Andy role playing. Anything involving Rowan and Rid's dynamic was hilarious. It was very hard for me to sort of, if Five had a moment right after a scene like that, to sort of jump back into, and then I know I can speak for myself and Ryan in this moment. We were both on the edge of our seats waiting. Is this the episode where they're going to kiss? Is this the
Every
episode?
single one. Oh my God.
Is it? Are we going to get? Oh, no.
The amount of times I yelled at you all throughout this whole campaign. I'm so sorry. You had to deal with me for 18 freaking episodes. I'm glad we finally got it.
Listen, it's not just you.
This is while Sin and I are messaging each other. We're like, is this the moment? No, it feels forced.
Yeah. No, like we have our own chat being like, do we kiss now? Is now the time to kiss?
And you couldn't have landed on the most perfect time. So it was so good. So good.
Can I say though, really quick, out of character, Ryan is so hard to be mean towards, because like as a character, Zooey just doesn't like nobles. But like knowing Ryan in real life and knowing what a sweet bean Ryan is, I'm just like, I feel so mean. I feel like a bully.
Oh, it was so fun playing a mean character for once. Like, I don't want to say mean. Just someone who's grumpy and is like can give it back, you know.
Yeah.
I'm too busy playing Golden Retriever Sebastian in the main campaign, where it's so nice to just come in here and let all that grit out, you know.
Yes. Yeah. My joke answer for like favorite NPC was going to be anyone who's not Red. Truly.
All right, Annie. Jump in, hit us.
I want to start with the finale, and I want to know, one, was it possible to save Ilianos in any way, other than the way that we saved him? Two, what would have happened if we had attacked Alana?
Oh.
Okay, well let's begin with that one, because that's easy. Yeah, if you attacked Alana, I didn't necessarily even intend to, because I knew that I needed to present her and get her out. Right? So also in that, I need to develop it to such a point where I need to give you so much that you wouldn't even attempt to go to Alana. Right? Can I sit? No. Right? It's somebody direct, in charge, and in control. So I needed to just give her in the short window of time, because that is a possibility, right? It is definitely a thing, which we can talk about with Kraden, because that's a whole thing. That's a whole nother thing. But essentially with Alana, simple. If you had attempted to, it would have been a very just either counter spell, or if you even landed a hit, sure, X amount of hit points, and then I probably would have laid down some serious damage on you, just to show the point. You know what I mean? But again, it also is that thin line that you walk as a DM, because you're like, I don't want to. If I show you what Alana can do, then all I'm doing is telling the viewer, yeah, this is important, but it's not the big bad, right? It's not the thing that we're all fighting for. However, if I just make her menacingly enough, then it falls back to Varion's point of, if you take down, one block of the massive statue, hey, that's something. You know what I mean? Or in this case, a massive Jenga block that is Furnos. But yeah, essentially that's that. Now to your other question, technically, no. Technically, there wouldn't have been a way. Could I come up with one? Yes. Did I come up with one? Sure. On saving Ilianas or whatever the situation was. And it's because inherently in the fight is the literal representation of everything you've been through. Right? It's the lacking purpose, not choosing, not being your best self, not following your true potential with 5 is what Furnos is, right? It's the child that didn't want to follow the father's dreams, but then somehow ended up even worse than imagined. And then with Rid and Zue, you guys also just had this fucking thing because you both in story fit so perfectly well together. And what I mean by that is, you both have parts of yourselves that you're both trying to access from one another, but then also at the same time trying to keep away from one another, right? So you're constantly playing this thing. So when you both are like, we're getting a little sort of like quote unquote upset with one another because of, Zue's part of it and Rid's part of like, I've been through literal fucking hell and back. I'm not gonna go through this again. Furnos ends up being this, well, if you let these secrets and these things guide you, then this is what it'll become, the thing that ends you. So again, the villain is the villain for the sake of the story, but the villain just really is meant to heighten you guys more, right? It's meant to elevate you guys to a different extent. And then for Rowan, Furnos is also just if I am the beacon of the moon, if I am the champion of this goddess, what can I take on to, not necessarily, because the relationship between you and Selune was not necessarily one of go do this for me and, be great at it, but just more of like, the world is counting on you, if you will, but not with saying that, because I don't want to say that, but it really is this is your bad, Rowan, go take it on, you know what I mean? Like, go do what you have to do, shine the light at the literal manifestation of darkness. There it is.
I have a lot of questions, but I'm gonna let other people ask them.
Okay. Any of my characters that are illiterate, because I keep 2 journals. I keep a me journal and then a character journal. Every episode, Zue's ranking of characters changed, and I'm curious if anyone else has that and what your final rankings are at the end of the show.
Yeah, I definitely didn't keep a journal. I didn't write them down, but there, even in my own head, even in Ryan's head, I had the list. I had the list for Rowan ready at any time. But yes, it definitely changed throughout. 5 was number 1. Rid and Zue were number 5. And then as we went on, you guys slowly stopped being in last place. Well, Rid did. And then sorry. But yes, 5, I don't think 5 ever stopped being the top on Rowan's favorite. It was Rid and Zue that were like kind of neck and neck for a second.
I can't think of a single moment that Zue should have moved up on your list.
We had some sweet moments at the end. Our rekindling.
We had some sweet moments, right?
Sort of a similar thing, but in a little bit of a reverse, where actually, no, it is one of those things where Rowan was always number 1, but it was an interesting thing that would happen where Zue and Rid would swap places.
It's the
almost
flippy
every
flops.
single episode.
Yeah,
it was the flippity flop, and it would happen to every single episode. Sometimes in the middle of an episode, I'd be like, okay, I'm interacting with Rid now, and this is how, and Rid and Five definitely had moments where, especially when the first time Rid actually talks to Olga, and Five just happens to be listening to the entire conversation because nobody knew that he doesn't sleep.
That caught me off guard in real life. I was like,
That was
oh.
good.
And then my favorite thing though is that Rid plays it off like it was totally normal, and then because Five, not knowing enough about Rid, doesn't think that what they were doing was abnormal, and so it never gets brought up again. But then I would say that the relationship that is sort of formed between Zue and Five definitely sort of cements Zue towards the end of the season in like the second place position, because of how that whole thing played out.
Are you saving yourself for last?
Well, I want Jose to rank his children.
Oh, you're gonna start a
You
fight?
can't do that to him.
Don't do that.
Give me the question again. What am I ranking?
I'm kidding. You don't have to.
Your favorite characters from the
No.
party, Jose.
I already
Final
know no one
rankings,
else
final
played
rankings
Rid.
of the
I don't want to hear
characters.
it.
All of them.
There
Because
you
all
go.
you guys were great. But Herman gets a little bump in there.
There you go.
You know what? Fair.
Yeah, you guys, again, it's what I did a lot, and just sort of me talking about you guys, but it's you really got to tell me where I wanted to go with the story, right? So if it wasn't for you guys, we don't have a story, right? Because I'm not writing a story that then you guys can participate in. No, the entire story legitimately just revolves around the four of you. So, there is no story without you guys. So there you go.
So, Five was always last. I'm so sorry. It's just there. Foils, that's where he lives. It doesn't mean he's last in the list of people in Rid's heart. All of them. It just means he's at the bottom of the party. Zue was first until Inkgate, and then after Inkgate came down to the middle, and Rowan came up to number one homie and was chilling there for a while, and then at the very end, Zue switched back to first.
Yeah.
Question. Did Zue go straight to the bottom after the Kraden stuff? Because I know you tried to defend Zue, but Rowan was like, give me a good reason to not kill Zue.
I did say that.
You did. And it was spicy.
The apology Ryan sent me when I was like, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Wait, what was in the apology?
Oh, Ryan's like, just remember when you get to Rid's episode, I love you.
Just remember I love you.
Hey, how you doing? I just wanna say this real quick.
Did you get the meal I sent you for your listening? Just being nice today, that's all.
Yeah.
To answer the question, no, Zue did actually not drop to the bottom because Rid is a person who analyzes for a long time before acting, and then once she thinks she's analyzed enough, that is when she takes action. So she was still analyzing. She was like, I can't make a judgment call about Zue until we know whether they knew about Kraden. And so once, it was established that, Zue is in just as much pain as we are, then the anger melted away.
Zue's was Rid, and then everyone else just sat at the bottom. There was no two or three. But that was more just because like Zue's approach too was like, don't get attached. Do not get attached, because that's just how you get hurt. And then at the finale, at the very end, it was actually quite interesting because 5 fluctuated a lot for Zue. I would say even now in the air, because like Zue understands what needed to be done, but at the end of the day, it is like, that's my dad, right? And it's one of those things where like 5 is floating in the other right now because like they're very conflicted on how to feel. Rid has only left first place once, and it was during the reunion actually.
Ooh.
Because
Wait,
Zue felt
I stayed
like
at first place during Inkgate? I exposed your entire identity and stayed at first place?
yes.
Are you okay?
I'm sorry. You've met Zue. Do you think Zue's okay?
Fair point.
No, because I think because Andy and I talked about this too, where Andy was a little bit surprised when Zue was like, I wouldn't abandon you. Because a lot of Zue's anger comes from like a place of fear and rejection. So I think upon like, yeah, Zue had that immediate flash, but it didn't really change Rid's ranking. Mostly because for Zue, it was more about the fact that it was exposed, but it was a flash moment. Zue's rankings tended to change with long-lasting moments for them. Whereas, like, Jose did not give us room to think or feel or breathe that episode. It was like, Inkgate, Hags, like, everything at you all at once. Now make a
Hades,
decision.
drowning.
Flood. Die.
Right. Also, because keep in mind, this is the other thing. Everybody wants Rid and Zue to kiss. Everyone wants Rid and Zue to have a moment. Everybody wants that. You want it constantly, right? You're asking for it because it's the inevitable thing that the story needs, right? So then that's why the kiss works so well when it happens. Where even after you guys come back, you're still in this weird thing where you're like, I'm telling you things, but I'm not telling you things, and I don't know how I feel about it. I'm sorry. What happened to you? What happened to me? I don't know. Because you need to let that happen. Because, I mean, personally, how I felt about it was like, I'm itching for that moment of absolute desperation where it's not about words. It's not about anything anymore. I can tell you everything I need to tell you about, but in this moment, I just want to show you how much you mean to me. You know? So, and, good stuff.
Did you down Zue so that would happen?
No.
That was just his big boy attack.
I was just big boy attacking.
You were just big boying. Got it.
And keep in mind,
Yeah.
I gave Zue hit points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I made it where everybody's like, cool, if you're coming into it. And also I had Zue or Sin had already showed me how they are going to play their caster. So then I was like, oh yeah, like if we play any fight, Zue will always be the first to go down. You know what I mean? Just in general, how Sin plays that character. So then I was like, okay, well, in the other fights, we'll add in flavor here and there and the other, but in the final, it's everybody gets it, and more so, Zue is going to get it the hardest because Zue is the emotional anchor to whatever remains with Infernos.
Yeah, and like glass cannon, and like it's purposely like why I took magic circle for Zue, is because the intention is always, if there's danger, the circle goes around me. I don't care about anyone else. Goodbye. I am protected. Thank you.
Yeah. It works out so well.
I really liked all the rationale you did, Jose, of this character is attacking this character because of XYZ in the finale. Like, you know, I'm attacking Rowan because he is the person in my way kind of thing. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, yeah. In the finale with Kraden and all that?
Yeah. Just like, you know, it didn't feel like, oh, I'm going to try and make sure all the party HP is like, I don't know. I've never DM'd. All these people have DM'd. I haven't. I'm guessing. But like,
gotcha.
I'm not trying to like, you know, make it so this character doesn't go down yet. They all had like a justification emotionally or strategically.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's if I'm gonna be fair about it, you know, maybe every now and then I might pull back a punch or so if you're dealing with the hags or something. Maybe the hag wanted to go towards Zue, but then I was like, I've already kind of hit Zue a couple times. Let's go to Rowan, right? You think about those moments because you're like, whatever, we're in the middle of it. But in the finale, it's like if I'm going to give you fear, then I have to not know what's going to happen, right? I have to allow myself to let go of where I would like things to go, right? Because that's one thing that I always talked about with Colin too. It's just in general, when I talk with him, I'll talk and I'll say, well, yeah, you know, like towards the finale, it would be great because then if, you know, for example, when 5 goes back home, you know, this will be great. And then Colin would always just throw in there, yeah, if 5 survives. And I would always go, you're right. I mean, you're right, but it's just in the moment I'm not thinking that because I'm thinking of every single possibility that I'm not thinking of oh yeah, that's right. So what does happen if they die? So then I allowed myself to just say, okay, I don't know what happens if they die. I don't know what happens if they move on. Let's just go for it. Which I don't know. I mean, Ryan, I don't know. Have you mentioned anything to the cast about Rowan or anything like that?
Oh, I don't know if anyone else expected to die, I texted Jose probably, I don't know if it was the day before or like 3 hours before we were recording.
Sure.
I was like, feel free to fucking yeet Rowan if you want. Like, just don't pull your punches. Just let it all out, you know?
Yeah.
If it comes to it, I'm ready. I don't know if anyone else accepted it. I had accepted it. I didn't think any of us were going to make it out of this series. I'll be totally honest.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was actually, that's what I was honestly anticipating. Once the chains were placed on 5, I was just like, oh, so it would literally be perfect poetry for the character who may as well have been a sort of a semi-tank throughout this entire series to be held in place and then be executed. Like that would have been like bookends right there.
Right. Well, no, I bring that up with Ryan because Ryan took me on a ride, right? Because you have this entire time, the way that Ryan's playing this character. Again, not necessarily grumpy, but like just stoic, knows what they want, is not willing to just kind of bend, is like, oh, this is how I feel about it. This is what I want to do for the greater good, blah, blah. But then Ryan was very vulnerable with Selune, right? And the way he would talk with her, I was like, okay, well, this fucker's got emotions. When we were playing that, I was like, okay, well, the thing that was really interesting about Rowan is that I then gave you a choice. I then said, all right, well, if you want this to be your end, this is your end. And then you fucking said no. And then I went, that's not only very beautiful, but also so perfectly for you. You know what I mean? Where I was like, you make the choice now in this moment. You wanted me to, to yeet him if it came to it. You accepted that fate. But if the fate is then granted to you, would you take it? You know what I mean? Like if you were tasked with walking the eternal realms of the afterlife with this boy, would you do it? You know what I mean? And it's like, it could have gone both ways.
That was probably the longest and hardest I've thought on a D&D question in a very long time.
Cool.
It's funny too because editing it, Annie's like, no, while she's muted. I just heard, no, you can't, no. I loved it. And I was like, I really fucking can't, but like, should I? It was a very, very, it was a very hard decision.
Think of it though, having to say goodbye to everyone as you basically take this boy to the afterlife and just giving that all up.
He really wanted to, and that's why it took so long for me to decide on if that was the path that I was willing to walk. But at the end of the day, I'd rather save many than save one. And I know I can do a lot more good in Faramore and throughout Fendraeya helping others than walking one boy through the afterlife. And I think Hades will redeem himself. I hope so. I think he's learned from his mistakes, and he will be a great guide, a shepherd through the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
What's his domain too, right? That's kind of how what I wrote is that when I wrote the two, or I jotted down these ideas, I wrote, okay, well, if Rowan goes, then Rowan goes, and then Hades just kind of, is there as like, okay, well, you're gonna have to engage with me throughout this process. But then I said, but if Rowan doesn't, then the task goes to Hades. You know what I mean? And it's like, again, also just as impactful because you also want it to matter, right? You want it to be like, okay, well, if you didn't want to usher this kid, it's not just like, okay, well, the kid just fucking goes. It's like, no, someone has to do this. This is a boy at the end of the day. You have to introduce these elements of mortality.
I think Hades was very fitting, honestly.
That worked out.
I have a question for Jose.
Oh boy.
Well, I guess this is kind of a question for everybody. Were there any secrets that you had for Jose about the world or the plot or the NPCs, and then for everybody else about your character or your backstory? Were there any secrets that you didn't get to have or share that you wished you had gotten to share that you want to share now?
Yeah, I'll make mine easy. All of my stuff is out on the table.
Same. Jose, actually is responsible for devoting an entire episode to the things that I never thought I would ever actually get to see or experience ever. It was sort of like it was sort of a half, like, it was just a lore drop. I was looking at pictures of Warforged, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start talking about the Seven, and I'm gonna put together all their personalities, and I have the whole thing written up, and I sent it to Jose and Colin, and I was just like, hey, just here's a lore drop. This is stuff I made. I don't know if you care at all, and then that episode happened, and suddenly I'm talking to 4, and I'm talking to 3, and I see 2, and it was awesome. It was great.
The one thing I didn't think would come up was the burn marks on the chest, but that's also there. That was the one thing that I thought might, like, slip under the radar. But other than that, everything was out. I don't know about you guys.
I just had, I guess, a couple small things. Like you guys, everything came out in my episode, which I liked. Rid had how when you have the noble background, you have a signet ring. She had hers on a chain around her neck, under her clothes all the time. And I was wondering if it would, like, flop out at some point.
Oh.
Like she says in Wither and Bloom, she is never unarmed. She always had a knife in her boot. So even if she had, one of the things I was thinking of for the reunion was what if, Rid throws transmutation into a tree or something to show she's not going to attack Zue. She always has a knife in her boot, and she knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And then the last thing was just that I had Vortex Warp and Wither and Bloom that I was ready to whip out, and that was the original homebrew with Jose, that I could give myself damage to get back a spell slot to use those, because I thought it would be narratively fun.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one. I left some chunks / blanks in my backstory specifically for Jose because of the memory thing. And I'm assuming the reason this didn't get covered is because I don't think it's been entirely covered in Cast Party proper either, which is exactly how Zue got to this plane. Because we learned because for the people who are caught up, I'm sorry if you're not, these are spoilers. Changelings are not from, like, the material plane. They are from another plane somewhere else.
Alien babies.
Exactly. That's
Bald
why I said
alien babies.
And I didn't know if it was, like, my place to, like, come up with an idea, so I was like, Zue's first memory is arriving at the Vale as a small child. Like, that was all I gave Jose. And I was, like, so curious if that was going to come up during Zue's episode. But I really love the spin that Jose gave, because everyone got future predictions, and Zue's just like, stop blaming yourself.
Because that's the thing. It's because you gave me so much that I was like, it's the thing where it's like, if we were to do a spin-off of this right now, the spin-off is the Zue and Sin spin-off, right? Because the Rowan in 5-1 is just already so full of heart that you just believe it, right? You're like, yeah, but they're friends. We don't know how, and yeah, maybe we didn't explore it on how you met, but we believe it. We can see the two of them visually and say, great. Now Zue and Rid, it's like, okay, well, what happened there? And then with yours, Sin, yours was the one where I was like, I was struggling the most with it. Because I was like, okay, well, either it's an episode where I take you through, I think at first I wanted to do like 3 different versions of yourself. And then you watch one that is, sacrificing a party member, and then another where you're rescuing somebody, and then a third one where you leave them abandoned or something like that, So then I was like, okay, but then what am I doing there? I'm just adding in more work for what? Just to say the same point of like, don't be so hard on yourself? Or do I have it where you fight this other version of you? And it's just it's also just simpler. It's simpler, but to the point. And then from simple, we can go big. We can have a flame snake. We can have the ink that encompasses and guards you. And then when 5 attacks, you take damage, because the thing also about Zue is that Zue is already so much more complex because Zue is involved with the main antithesis of the entire thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, with Zue, you can go so many ways. You can go where we can explore a lot of Arcanum things, you know, and that's also the other thing where when the Arcanum is speaking about Zue, I was like, oh, I'm going to write down all these dialogues and I'm going to write all these things about how they talk about them when they're not around. But then I was like, no, it's simple. They just, no matter what Zue does, the Arcanum will just not accept her, period. And that's as simple as it is. You know what I mean? And it's like, no matter what Ilinas is and no matter how great it is and all these other things, that's the point, because then that helps, well, in this case, 5, see it from the point of view of, okay, then maybe we were wrong about Zue in general. You know what I mean? Because it's like Zue is not tied in and they're all homies and shooting the shit and talking about how they'll burn Fendraeya. No, Zue is just, she's caught up in this thing, you know? So, okay, well, let's give them a way out of it so they can be their own person and then explore their own demons and things. And
I just want to say this with all the love in my heart, Jose. I loved that episode, but I felt so personally attacked as a human too. And I was like, leave me alone.
Can I tell you though? Let me tell you this. I'll tell you this because now I can say it. So when I think I might have mentioned it, but either you or Annie or the both of you said, you know, fuck me up, Jose. I'm in it, right? I finished talking with you guys and I went downstairs at our old place and I went up to Kitty and I said, she was like, how'd it go? I was like, I'm gonna fuck him up so bad. And she was like, oh my God, that's, you know, tell me about it. And I told her, I said like, oh, well, Zue has this whole thing where they're playing, you know, the 2 coin game, but, or the coin, the 2 sides of the coin, but they don't really sort of commit to one. So I'm going to make it super emotional. And then Rid, I'm going to go back and I'm going to change or I'm going to show her memory and her life and all these other things. So yeah, you guys gave me a lot to work with. Because at the end of the day, that's also the cool thing about Dungeons and Dragons in a way, or I'll say more so for me, the stories that I gravitate to are the stories that are super awesome fantasy, but at the end of the day are really just trying to tell you something, which at the end it's all storytelling is. But for this, it was like kind of what me and Ryan have been talking about. We've just been kind of mentioning where it's like we just went so dark with this that I didn't even think it was going to get as dark as it did. But then I just kept on chasing it. I was like, okay, we can go a little bit more here. We can go a little bit more there.
Oh, it was so worth it.
Yes.
But then in that, oh, fuck me up. But anyways, yeah, in that it was just a matter of, okay, well then how do I reel it back, right? Let's give them their episodes. Let's explore trauma. Let's give them their heroic moments, you know, all those kinds of things.
I do have a secret that I remembered that I've only told Annie right now. And it's actually about Zue. So it is something that I pieced together. For those who have listened to Cast Party, Zue and Ilionas, played by Sin and Jose, dropped some voice lines for an episode as we delved into an old Arcanum base. Zue was the one who recommended to Ilionas that they take alternative measures in taking over Elvarath. So Zue got Rid's sister killed.
Stop! I was hoping Annie would never notice that. How dare you?
No, I mean, I know that, but Rid didn't know that. If you never tell Rid that, you're gonna have a problem.
And but also, like, Zue's memory is always very hazy from her different versions of herself. So, like, it's possible they don't even remember saying or doing, making that recommendation.
Yeah, let's go with that so that Rid doesn't kill Zue later.
Let me just say though, so like Colin fed me these lines, right? Recorded it, had fun. I even painted my face to look like a dragonborn while I read these. And then I listened to Annie's episode and I hear the word and I'm like, why does that sound so fucking familiar? And I go back and I type it in multiple chats that I have with Colin and Jose, and I was like, oh my fucking god. No.
Yep.
And I was like, no.
They name dropped all of us, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first time we heard the Albrecht name. 5 was mentioned with Burndarium, and the Farisle family in Faramore were all mentioned in the log.
But to be fair, if not to justify, but to be fair, the other thing about it is, sure, maybe there was, we have to think of more creative ways of taking care of Elvirath. That's not the end all be all. Right?
True.
Yeah, no one said kill Rid's sister.
Right. But that's the thing. It's that, but it could have gone so much more differently if you think about it, right? It's kind of like, okay, well, maybe there was a conversation and then Creighton was the one sent out. Well, keep in mind, Creighton was originally there to just begin a conversation. I personally, in my canon, Creighton just acted out of pure unyielding sort of like animalistic power, right? It's the like, I'm not getting what I want here. I'm not getting what I want here. Everyone here is treating me like I'm the outsider, but we run things. So screw you, you too, and bye-bye. You know what I mean? So in a way, it's like, sure, could you interpret it? Could you interpret it in a way of like, yeah, well, maybe this is to Rid the core definition of everything to come. But in the scale of, if we were to sort of think about what Zue and the Arcanum were doing during that time, to them it's like, we don't know what we've done, but we don't care. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, great. Let's take a more different approach to deal with this. Great. Did we think Creighton was going to kill the daughter of the noble family? No. What happened to the other daughter? Who cares? You know what I mean? And boom, here she is at the end fighting Creighton. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's like fate just interweaving itself, Which, by the way, as a note, and I'll throw this in here, I almost didn't put Creighton in the end.
Oh, but the emotional payoff.
I almost didn't, because I wanted it to be Alana that was just disguising as Ilianas. And then I thought about, one thing that I always wrote was that moment where Alana rips the fabric of reality and then pulls Kaimasora and he's like in pain and stuff. I was like, okay, well, if she keeps him there, and I'm, keep in mind, and I'm being not necessarily like, I don't know what the fuck you'd call this, but that decision I came up with in the moment. In the moment, I said, I can only go to 2 people, Alana or Creighton. Who do I want? I'm not sure. So that's when I asked, I was like, Creighton, would they, if I asked Ryan right now what his name is, would Ryan, you know what I mean, not only think about it and be like, oh yeah, I remember, but like, does he still hold resentment? Is there still a fire to that? Okay, cool. Then let's put him in there.
That was one thing I really appreciated about Ryan and Rowan, is that this very personal like enemy of Rid's also became Rowan's enemy, just a virtue of watching it. And I fucking love that about Rowan and Ryan. So awesome.
Yeah. Look at you all. He didn't even get to do fucking shit. He
got fucked.
It was like unreal, the amount of damage he took.
Yo, speaking of Creighton, Annie and I had the theory that Zue was Creighton. Like, Creighton was one of Zue's past disguises.
Ooh, that's
that's
oh my god.
Okay, and that's what we were like, this is a question for Annie. What would Rid have done if Zue was found to be Creighton? That's why I asked if Creighton's name was on Zue's list.
PvP, baby.
Is this if in the finale or at the reunion?
Reunion, like, would it be on site or
on site?
Oh my god.
On site.
Oh yeah.
Annie messaged me actually afterwards, and she's like, honestly, it would not have ended well if you were Creighton.
Oh, that would have been horrible.
That would have been dirty.
You guys would be down a party member. One of us.
No. I know exactly how, because you gotta remember, like, 5 has just gone through this emotional turmoil moment with Zue, comes back, gets woken up, and that suddenly happened. 5 would fucking lose it. Like, it would have been an immediate attack on Rid. And then who's to say what would have happened between Rowan and 5 at that point?
Rowan would have turned on you.
Yeah.
It would have been the 2 friends from the start fucking against each other.
Yeah.
That would have been great. Let's do that battle royale.
It's canon now.
No joke. If you guys would like, and I know we partially talked about this in our general chat, it would be so long, and I would hate every single fucking second of it, editing-wise.
Doing a PvP.
I want to do a PvP 2v2. Oh, so bad for a little Patreon one-shot.
You know how it has to get broken up is not Zue and Red together.
Rid and Zue together. Rowan and 5. We'll do it. It's fine.
Do you want it to last 20 minutes?
We could have just do an alternate reality of that reunion where it went poorly. Like, it could be 5 Zue versus Ro and Rid.
I think that would be the best. I think that's what I said. I think that's the most balanced, with it being Druid, Bard, and Cleric Rogue. I think that would be one hell of a fight.
Oh, I think ultimately, though, definitely Rid and Rowan totally.
I don't know. Your wild shapes are crazy,
I
man.
would die.
They
I'd die really fast.
They are, but no, but seriously, 5 is not a dexterous character at all, and his initiative sucks. So Rid automatically goes first, and then just closes distance, and all that has to happen is the cleric has to be standing next to the druid, and suddenly the rogue comes in and sneak attacks. That's it.
Oh no, Rid, you would go first. You would have vigilant blessing. You would have warding god. You would have bless.
Yeah.
Like
that's another
you
thing
have
I want to talk
advantage on
about.
initiative rolls.
I just wanted to say how I appreciated that Rowan and Red's relationship resulted in a very tanked out Rid for the finale.
Oh yeah.
I like that a lot and appreciate that. I want to ask what everybody's favorite moment of their own and of someone else's was during this. And also say one for Jose, because Jose's awesome. That's a lot. I know that's a lot.
What was my favorite moment?
Your own favorite moment, like something cool you did, and then favorite moment of something someone else did, and then extra for you because you ran the whole thing.
One of my favorite moments was, it was a line after he gives you the thorn beside. And you said something, 5. And the way that I responded, I don't remember what the line was, but it was essentially something along the lines of like...
Did it have to do with being afraid?
Yeah, I think so. But it was just that it was this moment where I choked up. Because I was like, you were so into it. And I was so like, it's one of those things where when I was thinking of 7, I was like, I also have to be very respectful, because if Andy doesn't respond to this person, his brother, then what's the point?
Well, I think it also helped the fact that you didn't change your voice at all for 7. 7 was you.
7 was me.
Like, I'm just responding to Jose.
Well, because 7 was also, right, it's your 5, right? You have purpose and goals, and 7 is he's just the guy, you know what I mean? He's in there and he does his own things and he does them his own way, so
he's the youngest.
I don't know what voice to come up with him, so I was just like, oh, he just talks like this, and then Ryan will add whatever it is that he adds to it, but it's like 7 is just that. But there was just something about the way in which you interacted with your brothers in 7 that I was like, oh man. And then another one of my favorite moments, actually, here we go, I got him. Another one of my favorite moments was Annie's reaction to when Creighton is the one to reveal to have killed her sister. I had thought of that moment for so long. And I was so and Colin knew about it. I was like, Creighton's gonna fucking just do a little bloop, and she's gonna fucking start dying, and it'll be great. And the way that you were like, what did you say? You said, I think you said did he do it? Or something like that. And I was like, oh shit, okay, I got her. I was like, I got her. Here we go. Let's fucking go. So then I was like, and then I just kept on milking the moment, and then you could see the small tendrils of a spell with this horrible energy just right to your sister in the middle of this dinner banquet scene. You know what I mean? It was my own red wedding of sorts, Game of Thrones style. But instead of killing everybody, I just killed the most important person in the room. And then the one that got to me that I really liked, another one of my favorite moments was with Zue. Because Sin, it was so cool how you didn't know what the other version of you wanted. You know what I mean? And that to me was so perfect. Right? You didn't just discover it right away. You you were like desperate about it. You know what I mean? You were like, I don't know what I want. You know what I mean? So then in my head in that moment, I'm thinking like, well, how long do I push it? You know what I mean? Like, how do I want to, spoon feed it to you? Or do you eventually kind of pick up on it? And then when you started picking up on it, you know what I mean? Because at the same time, I'm also thinking of, well, I got to make sure that they understand that Hades is in the background having a moment. You know what I mean? So this is all in conjunction to what's happening now. That was really great. And then lastly, and then with Rowan, his whole like, well, one, your attitude about Hades was my fucking favorite. I was like, you as a DM can know when you're like, okay, well, they're okay with this person, or maybe I can weave in and out of certain things about this individual, in this case, Hades. But with Rowan, I was like, shit, no, I think I took it too far. he doesn't want anything to do with this guy. So then I catered to that, right? I said, okay, fine. If he doesn't want anything to do with it, then Hades is just going to poke him right back.
I was sassy with Hades until the very last fucking line of the finale, too.
Yeah.
That was good.
Don't you dare do it again.
The way that I sort of work in my head is like, if I could draw these like 4 moments and I could frame them in my wall, the one moment that I would draw for Rowan would be him being elevated by Selune and sort of granted this light and the light burning in his chest, right? Like that moment.
That was such a, like, it was painted all over my mind when you were describing that whole scene. Just like the arms out, the chest up, just bathing in the moonlight. It was so perfect.
For 5, it's the Burndarium, and you looking at it with all your brothers standing turned away as you're staring at the eye burning Burndarium, like the one singular thing with a goal. You know what I mean? And it's just overcoming the greatest evil of it all. And then for Zue, it was always just the smaller moments, right? Like her and Ilianas together. Like I would just have a picture of the two of them on a bench by the red tree looking over the book. But Ilianas is not staring at the book, he's looking off in the distance. You know what I mean? And then for Rid, it would be you seeing that moment that you played off with so well, was that moment in the dinner when like you're both discussing and talking, and it would be a picture of the viewer seeing you, the back of your head at the dinner scene. You know what I mean? But it would be like you would be bathed in darkness while everything around you is just this beautiful light and lit up halls and festivities and things, you know, so yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So all of it was my favorite moment. All of it.
Shoot, I was going to give moments, but then Jose, I think, just took them all. No, that was
know,
really good.
Sorry.
Really?
Well, and made it so goddamn cinematic.
I know,
Yes.
so beautiful.
It's like from the camera's perspective. It's like right behind Rid's head during the.
This was something I was talking about with I think it was Colin, and then I also brought it up to you as well, Jose. It's so interesting. I mean, us having played our own home games, having DM'd our own home games, everyone has their own style, but the fact that you are so into cinematography and film and everything of the sorts escalates all of your descriptions, your storytelling. I envisioned every single fucking scene of this entire series down to like
so easy.
Down to the items on a desk, down to how many fucking blades of grass are in this field that we're standing in. Like it's embedded in my head, and I could play it back like a movie anytime I wanted to, and I can't praise you enough for that, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah, that means a lot. Thank you. That really means a lot. Yeah, thank you so much.
Can I say something about that specifically? Again, this is just gonna be just more praises on Jose.
Oh boy.
As somebody who studied theater all throughout college and film side by side, and was pursuing acting and sort of was like looking at cameras a lot, I have such an immense appreciation for you in that way as well, mainly because the way you handled all of the episodes where we're in memories, we're in dreams, we're in all of these moments, it honestly was like watching a Terrence Malick film. And it was like all of this imagery is sort of just, it's like beautiful, and it is like deep, and it's like seeing Brundarium was not something I ever expected to have happen. And the fact that I got to live in that world and see it was a treat. But then how it was sort of like the world was moving around the characters, even when the characters were standing still. And by that, I don't mean like people were walking around them. No, the literal world seemed to move. And that was just like,
Oh, yeah.
that's what a dream feels like. That's what I imagine it to feel like. And so it was like, get out of my head, Jose.
Thanks, man. Look, bit of a personal thing, but yeah, no, thank you. I didn't really, unfortunately, get to pursue a lot of my film dreams that I had. Just one thing and another, just life and whatever. So I think that this is where I'm able to hopefully pursue that, you know what I mean? So it means it truly, I don't think to an extent you guys understand how much that truly means to me. Because it is really great that you guys were able to. And you know what's funny is that even afterwards, we all have it, imposter syndrome or whatever. I'd go up to Kitty and I'd go, can I just run you by what I ran with them? And she's like, you were recording for hours. And I was like, I know, but I just want you to tell me if you can see what I'm telling you. But it was awesome. Yeah, it was great. Well, I mean, again, it's the, to your point, Andy, the cool thing about that was because in my home game, I'll describe everything about everything. But in this, I can't be bogged down with all these little details. So the world around you has to shift because I'm not going to spend more time there. I need to move on to something else. My mind needs to go to that next location so that I can give you all these details and then I can move on to the next one, or else we're just gonna stay in this infinite loop of, oh, well, Jose, what do I see and what do I get? It's like, well, I don't fucking know. We can't spend too much time there. Move on to the next memory, Well, that was cool. Yeah, no, I wanted to give you guys what you guys gave me. It works both ways.
I'm just going to add on to the Jose praise real quick before I do my moment. No, Jose, I just want you to know, I have a coworker who has never liked D&D or TTRPGs and decided to start listening to be like, hey, we're like friends. Maybe I'll listen to an episode. And he was like, I love Jose. I don't know who this man is, but like, he is fantastic.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, tell your friend thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Wait, I want to say it too. Also, as like as a writer, your voices, your words that you bring to life, and just these moments that you sit in and you bring to us are incredible. Like Alana screaming, I'm always watching. All of these moments that just hit. I really admire that in you, and I also really admire how deeply you engaged with all of our characters, and you were like, okay, cool, let's build this together. I appreciate you very much, just like everybody here.
Okay, all right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. That's really nice.
Jose's over here. Oh, thank God there are only 4 of you to compliment me right now.
But thank you very much.
I don't know if I don't think I ever had the chance to tell everybody how I bugged Jose, like how I actually got to meet Jose. It was through TikTok. It was I was scrolling one day, and it was one of his home games that I'm assuming Sam recorded.
Yes, Sam is my videographer.
Yeah. Sam, who just dropped our wonderful The Mark design. You can get it now on our merch store, cast-party.myshopify.com. It's fucking sick, dude. But yeah, Sam filmed a bit of Jose's home game, and it started popping off on TikTok, and I came across it, and I'm like, I need to play with this guy. I was blown away at just the scene that you portrayed in that one TikTok, and we've had past projects fall, and I'm like, I don't care how I'm getting Jose, like it's happening.
That was awesome.
I'm so excited that we finally got to make something happen together.
Yeah, that was awesome, man.
And yeah, I would love to leave it up for one last question, which Annie found for us, which is, what is one thing that this story taught you before we say goodnight?
I just talked a lot, so I'll talk last.
I wanted to say always trust your gut, but at that point, Zue would have been dead if I did that. So maybe not that, but
maybe not that one.
I want to go with the old never trust a book by its cover. And I don't know if I can do any more justice than Jose's send-off speech in the finale of what we all learned. That just the whole morality lesson of everything.
Yeah, I think what was interesting is that when we first started talking, I remember that I said, this is a story about redemption. And then you guys were like, huh, okay. And then it was like, and then even I was like, yeah, what the fuck is that story? But I think, if just to keep it nice and short, but I think what I learned the most out of it was not necessarily in the story, because I already knew what I'm learning because of the story, but it's more about that. I think if you allow yourself in this case as a dungeon master, to like, I'll just speak on my experience. If you allow yourself to like flesh out a lot of things, but then leave a lot of things open with an idea of how you want to get somewhere, and you allow the players to take you there, it's easier said than done, right? But at the end of the day, it's like you discover how much more enriching the story can be, right? Because there are, out of the entire thing, there are maybe 3 moments that are quote unquote scripted on my end, right? It's like, I know these characters have to say this, and I want them to say this in this moment, right? The big speech at the end with Alana, like that is very specific because that needs to happen. But everything else is just like, you guys are showing me constantly like, this is how I'm reacting to this, and this is how I'm engaging with this. So then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can give them a little more of this, so I can take a little bit more of that, So you guys are constantly teaching me what's the story that you want, So it's like, because it's very easy, and we've all heard these horror stories with the DMs that are like, well, I'm just telling the story, and this is how I want to tell my story, period. But the people that I look to that inspire me are, of course, a bunch of different dungeon masters, but at the same time, you guys, right? Because you guys are constantly giving me, or giving the story what it needs. And it's the heart, it's the emotion, it's the engagement with it, right? So it's like, how the fuck did that happen? You know what I mean? Like, because again, to Ryan's point, sure, but keep in mind, me and Ryan had only really talked the majority of the time. Like, sure, we had talked a while, but like, hey, now we're actually going to sit down and play together. And now you saw that video of me doing that in my home game, but it's like, okay, well, now I want you to see this other part of me. Are you going to respond well to it? Like, are you guys going to be as open to these, this way of DMing, right? Where like, yeah, like Annie's point, Annie would be like, hey, I want to try all these different things. What do you think? And I would literally respond with, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Like, because I'm not going to think about it until you think about it, And then Zue or Sin, you would send me these like, hey, this is just like a journal entry, or this is like a page of just notes that I have about this, that, or the other. And it's like, awesome. Like, let you tell me how I fill in the world, So yeah, it was just great. It was great all around. I learned to be thankful for you guys. So not that I wasn't, but in general, it was really, really great. It was awesome.
I think that of the things that we learned, I guess this is not a new thing, but one of the things that was sort of reinforced in my mind was just when it works, it really works. And when you have such a great group of people to play with and to tell stories with, it is truly beautiful moments. Also, just remembering the power of yes and just like always accepting and never denying the story to be told, as opposed to trying to make it fit, trying not to railroad each other, and just being like, yeah, we're gonna just tell this thing right now, and just letting everybody just sort of have their moment. And it's beautiful when it just sort of happens, and you have a group that is aware of that. Everybody's aware of that.
Mine's kind of meta and kind of not. So coming into the story, we've talked about, we all knew that it was a prequel, and we were all pretty sure we were going to get Rogue One, or that was a big possibility. And I think that kind of manifested itself a little bit with Hades' visions of the future. And, Rowan took that as, man, everything is determined, and what's even the point, for a bit there, where Rid was like, this is one potential future. It doesn't mean it's written in stone. And I think about that a lot just in the things that I write, and, in my life. I think about what is the impact of the choices that we make. And I think in this series' nature, it addresses that question. And then it even tied into our name, which is, even in a world where you think that you know how it's going to turn out, in a world that seems big and vast and not always sensical, you can still make your mark.
Oh, so good. So good.
I learned two things, truly. They're a little bit more reminders than learning lessons. But the first one is remember to breathe a lot. Because there's a lot of scenes where Jose had us, at least me, on the edge of my seat, what's happening? And just not breathing properly. But it's also that kind of pacing of existence in this world that we brought to life with our characters is just, I think there were moments I felt really self-conscious when we were recording about taking so long to think and how to respond. And yet it was once it was in editing, once it was done, those long awkward pauses were so good for those moments. And I guess the last thing that I'll leave my own personal thought with is, both as characters and as people, is we ourselves are the keepers of hope. We are the keepers of our own light and our own kind of growth and salvation. And this whole idea that, morality is subjective. This is coming as someone who believes in moral, relativism, but that's fine. And this idea that truly, even though we may not have that grand choice in the big scheme of things, you have that choice of how you want to respond, how you want to grow, and how you choose to kind of perceive those things. And I think it was very evident in the reunion, where we were all some people had fun fucking field trips and other people did not. And it's that, how did each of us take it, where Rowan's life is doomed. Fuck all of this. And Rid's there's hope. We can change it. And it's this idea that we do have that choice, and we do have that ability to be able to make the impact that we want to, and it might not manifest in the ways that we choose, but it still is something that we have control and impact over, if that makes sense.
Ryan, you can say no to this if there's not time, but I'm wondering if we do a one sentence of what you think happens to your character.
Oh, yeah.
Zoe attempts to burn books.
Rowan makes it back to Faramore, continues to be a traveling cleric to neighboring towns and cities, and hopefully dies of old age. He just wants a simple life now. After all this, honestly.
The rocking chair on a porch.
Yeah.
Rowan's been up past his bedtime. Andy, what happens to 5?
I don't know. That's a great question. I've thought about it. I know that Rowan keeps his promise, and he brings him to Faramore.
5 could still be out there in main cast party campaign.
We should have talked about this with Colin.
I know. I'll tell you, the Forged are not, but 5 might be.
Well, I feel like Zues and Rids are kind of intertwined. Ooh. Rid sticks around to help Zue on their mission and what they are doing. At the same time, like I said, I think she would take the rest of her levels in Wizard And I think her goal is to figure out how to get like Diana and Olga, maybe Olga, she kind of likes Olga, but to get Diana to a resting place where she's not in her head all the time.
Oh, wow.
And other than that, I think systematic takedown of where she can on the Arcanum. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to mention about Rid. Rid has done murders before. Like, Rid is not a good character. Like, so... So I think that she would have no problem, trying to sneak in and slit some throats where possible. We know that she doesn't succeed in taking it down fully, but I like to think maybe she took some key figures out. And because she's a Hexblood, it's possible she's around somewhere during Cast Party proper. And I don't know if Zue is.
I kind of imagine, I don't know if everyone here has seen Spy X Family, but I kind
Not yet. I really want to.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I kind of imagine like your Anya, Zue being not Anya, Yor and Lloyd, and I imagine Zue
is
just
it the
being
mom?
Lloyd. Anya's the mom, who's the assassin.
So wait, do we have a psychic child?
We will. As we take down the Arcanum, we'll find a child and
Okay.
we'll save them. It'll be
I'm
fine.
sorry. Okay, I'm just hearing this now.
Ryan, for context, super spy who's super good at impersonating other people, an assassin who's just super good at killing other people.
Beautiful. Love it.
Done. Easy peasy. Blah.
The whole point also of the individual stories was that the individual stories are going to give us what we won't get at the end, right? So the individual stories are going to give us five, the listeners know of you know, Ryan, but the listeners know that Burndarum burned down and all that, and they tried the rafts. Okay, right. So the listener knows, but 5 doesn't, right? So I showed you, I was like, you're lost at sea, 5, and you're swimming, you see what looks like, something in the distance. So it's more about hinting at like, hey, these are things that everyone's familiar with the story. Because at the end of the day, let's just say in this scenario, it worked out. You all lived. Rowan didn't go and walk the eternal life of, salvation or whatever it is. But the story ends also in such a way where we don't need to know what happens now. Because what the story was, it's not about the amazingness that is Fendraeya. It's about these characters from Fendraeya that did this stuff, So in a way, all of these can be true, right? But then they also don't need to contradict with anything that Colin has down the line, because in this case with Zue, it's like, well, Zue had a conversation with the Arcanum. Okay, well, that was a conversation in the past, so we don't have to worry about it. So it's like, what does Zue do now? Well, I don't know. What does Rid do? What do they do together? What does Rowan do? It kind of leaves it so perfectly open where you're still alive, or you died off, or you get to create your own finale to it, because the story that needed to be told, you guys learned, you were put through hell, you fought a demon, and you came out of it alive. Good job. Now everything else is just
Someone else's problem.
it's someone else's problem. Maybe Jose's when he thinks about it too hard.
All right, Jose, you want to give us a nice little send off here?
Alrighty, guys. Thank you all so much for coming in and listening to this campaign wrap up, behind the scenes greatness that was Fables of Fendraeya Arcanum. I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, this has been an incredible experience. You guys were absolutely amazing. Your characters were amazing. You guys were amazing. You gave this story what it needed, and that was a heart. So thank you so much, guys. And I guess, remember, the Arcanum is always watching.